They revealed rainstorms, volcanoes, and the impact of craters.
The universe is far more beautiful, complex, and interesting than we ever imagined.
Nova chronicles the marvelous journey of Voyager from Earth to the ends of the solar system. Monday, don't miss The American Experience, and Tuesday, Nova.
Public television for Hampton Roads, Channel 15, WHRO-TV, Hampton, Norfolk.
Tonight's presentation of the Nightly Business Report is made possible locally in part by Norfolk Southern, linking America with manufacturing and trading centers across the world. Norfolk Southern, the thoroughbred of transportation.
In our report, President Bush's latest attempt to clarify his stand on higher taxes raises new questions.
General Motors uncovers its new weapon in the fight against an eroding market share.
And eroding stock prices push the Dow to a new 18-month low.
The Nightly Business Report, made possible by Digital Equipment Corporation, the company that makes all your computers work as one. The $42 billion Franklin Group of Funds, one of America's major mutual fund organizations for over 43 years. Franklin funds are distributed nationwide by investment professionals. A.G. Edwards, member of the New York Stock Exchange, serving the investment needs of individuals and businesses through more than 400 offices nationwide. And by the financial support of viewers like you. NBR is produced in association with Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher.
Good evening. After days of apparent waffling on the issue, President Bush came down today on the side of higher taxes for the rich, specifically a tax rate of 31% for 500,000 wealthy Americans in return for cutting the capital gains tax rate to 15%. But the president also said using the issue to break the budget impasse would be a waste of time. Dennis Moore reports from Washington.
Yes, George Bush said he would trade a higher income tax rate for a lower capital gains rate.
But I'm not very flexible on that. We tried at 31% and 15% on capital gains and income rates at 31. I will not go beyond that.
Republicans offered the 31-15 trade at the Andrews Budget Summit. Democrats wouldn't buy it. Now Bush told Republican congressmen going after it again could open the way to a split-the-difference deal with Democrats who want even higher rates.
I'm not going to vary from the terms that I've just filled out. If they get that done, fine. I think it's a waste of time because I just don't think it can get through both houses of Congress.
And what of those senators who thought Bush had taken the trade-off off the table? Spokesman Marlon Fitzwater said they just heard what they wanted to hear.
The White House may have decided to let Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill float a bunch of trial balloons only to see them shot down in the hope that they'll eventually return to something like the original Budget Summit agreement.
Budget Director Richard Darman is expecting congressional committees to do just that.
And it may well be that after they've had an opportunity to get more deeply involved than they felt they were in the past, that they will come right back to something like the plan that the leaders themselves came up with.
But Ways and Means Committee Democrats this afternoon unveiled a tax plan with a 33% top rate, also a 10% surcharge on incomes over $1 million, a smaller fuel tax hike, and smaller Medicare cuts. The Democrats may have the votes, but the president's already threatened another veto and another government shutdown if something like that lands on his desk. Dennis Moore, NBR, Washington.
Reports of more violence between Israelis and Palestinians sent spot oil prices surging above $41 after futures trading closed in New York today. Arab-Israeli strife and comments by Britain's foreign secretary calling for further action against Iraq boosted prices earlier. The November contract closed up $1.73 at $40.42 a barrel. North Sea Brent prices also rose in London. Gasoline futures also rose, with November unleaded up almost 2.5 cents to 96 cents a gallon. Paul?
After plunging nearly 116 points, or 4.5% on the Dow Industrial Average in the previous two sessions, the stock market staged an overdue technical bounce, which lifted the Dow some 15 points at the very outset today. But then, same old story, rise in oil futures undercut stocks badly. By mid-session, the Dow was off over 35 points. Mid-afternoon brought as much as a 50-point deficit in the industrial average after Chemical Bank slashed its dividend by 63%. And while a lot of analysts were continuing to lower earnings estimates on a host of companies. Nevertheless, prices did stabilize and improve slightly in the final hour, and the Dow managed to trim its closing loss to 42.82, putting it at 2365.10, but that is the lowest close since April 17th of 1989. Theoretical high and low separated by about 83-point range. Trading volume today moving up. We could be coming close to a selling climax here. Up volume was absolutely swamped by down volume, no comparison. Dow Transport's off nearly 11.5, utilities down about 1 2/3 points, closing tick. Still rather bearish, minus 196. Standard & Poor's 500, 400, and 100 all multi-point losers, and the Commodity Research Bureau December index off the better part of a point. We see the New York Stock Exchange index dropping a little over 2 3/4 points, value line down nearly 4 points, and that for the value line is the 5.5-year low. Wilshire 5000 dropping over 51 points. After the close, the Federal Reserve reported in the week ending October 1st, the M2 money supply rose $8.5 billion. M1 was up $7.7 billion. Bond prices opened on a fairly firm note, rebounding from sharp losses over the previous two sessions, but rose rising oil futures and budget boondoggling turned buyers away. Well, at least today's $5 billion offering of 30-year RefCorp bonds went about as expected. The average yield was set at 9.33%. Tax-frees and corporate issues ended unchanged, which is a triumph these days, but longer-term government still lost about an 1/8 point, like the 30-year treasuries, with the yield to maturity well over 9% now. Shearson-Lehman long index down 1.42, and Fed funds just edging below 8%. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Jim?
Thank you, Paul. Silver continued its tumble today on expectations of sluggish industrial and investor demand. The most active December contract dropped 18 cents to close at $4.28 an ounce. Platinum hit 4-year lows before recovering slightly, but gold rose $1.40. The dollar closed sharply lower against the mark after hitting an all-time low earlier in the day. Concerns about the budget weighed on the U.S. currency. The pound gained nearly a cent against the greenback. Concerns about lower profit reports from major banks also hurt the dollar.
Declines in the world-leading stock markets yesterday sent shockwaves through Tokyo today. As Reuters correspondent Terry Gallagher reports, jittery traders continue to look to world events for clues on where the Nikkei is going.
The Tokyo stock market fell sharply today in a holiday-delayed reaction to higher oil prices and heightened tensions in the Middle East. The Nikkei index of 225 stocks dropped 909 points, or 3.9%, to end the day at 22,586, but volume was very light. Dealers say the market is likely to hold to a narrow range over the next few sessions. Buyers are still reluctant to enter the market aggressively while oil prices remain over $40 a barrel. But most participants are confident that government authorities will take action if the market moves much lower, as Finance Minister Hashimoto hinted last week. Terry Gallagher of Reuters for NBR Tokyo.
The leading European markets posted mixed results today. An erratic Wall Street sent London share prices on a seesaw. The FTSE index closed down 0.9%. Frankfurt's DAX index rebounded from yesterday's fall, ending 1.5% higher. And Paris's leading index closed virtually unchanged. Paris shares cut gains at the close after the Bank of France failed to ease credit.
An extraordinary hearing got underway in New York today aimed at deciding whether or not Michael Milken should spend time behind bars. Scott Gervey reports from New York.
Michael Milken has admitted guilt to 6 felony crimes. He has suggested that he be sentenced to perform community service. He has already agreed to pay $600 million in penalties, but he faces a maximum of 28 years in jail. As the extraordinary sentencing hearing began today, Assistant U.S. Attorney John Carroll told Judge Kimball Wood she should consider evidence of other crimes as she decides on the sentence. While Milken watched and made detailed notes, Carroll said the former head of Drexel's junk bond department committed crimes for his clients. In doing so, he cheated customers. Milken attorney Arthur Lyman said that is not true. He told Judge Wood the government would try to hold Milken responsible for everything that went on at Drexel. But Lyman said she will not hear any testimony that ties Milken to other crimes. In particular, Lyman said the government has decided not to call convicted inside trader Ivan Boesky as a witness because Boesky will not say he asked Milken to manipulate stock. That set the stage as the government called Boesky's former head trader, Michael Davidoff, and then Drexel trader Kerry Multash to testify on the alleged manipulation of the stock of Wix companies in 1985. The defense strategy is clear. After conceding that Wix stock was manipulated, Davidoff was asked if it was true he never met Michael Milken. The response? Yes. Michael Milken never asked you to close Wix stock at a certain price? Yes. Prosecutors will present testimony on transactions involving Caesars World and Storer Communications in the days ahead, as the trial nobody expected to see unfolds.
I talked to you after my client pled. I told you that I thought that this was the end of his ordeal subject to sentencing. I was wrong on that, so we're going to have a little trial now, and I will do my talking in the courtroom.
This hearing is expected to take 2 weeks. Most observers believe Mike Milken will spend some time in jail, but few are willing to take a bet on how much. Scott Gervais, NBR, New York.
In a sluggish banking market, the Bank of New York reported profits today of $71 million compared to a loss of more than $271 million a year ago. The bank also said it added $113 million to its loan loss reserves.
Profits or not, Bank of New York stock down 5/8 at 17 in the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the third straight session. Today off nearly 43 points. That makes a 158-point drop in these past 3 sessions. That's better than 6% down. Only 301 issues higher, 1278 lower, a mere 3 new highs for the year. 375 new lows. IBM topped the active list on 3.1 million shares, down 2.5 points. There were rumors on the street Solomon Brothers is about to cut earnings estimates along with some other brokerages. Walmart moved up a quarter, same-store sales up 9%, not bad in September. Philip Morris down 3/4. Fannie Mae down 7/8, even though it had nicely higher third-quarter earnings, $1.15 versus 80 cents. Chemical Bank down 1 3/4. Here's the story. The company had a third-quarter loss of 63 cents a share, and it's slashing its dividend by 63%, from 68 cents to only 25 cents quarterly. Waste Management dropped 5/8. Ford and GE and Toys R Us, all fractional losers, but Dresser Industries gained 7/8 after Merrill Lynch and Sanford Bernstein Brokerage both came out with buy recommendations saying Dresser stock is way oversold. Alcoa down another 2 points. The stock was down 3 1/4 yesterday when Bear Stearns recommended taking profits in the aluminums. American Telephone edged up 1/8. NCR down 2 1/8 points. The story here, Smith Barney downgraded it to avoid. Phelps Dodge on softer copper prices off 2 5/8. Sears Roebuck fell 7/8 in September. Same-store sales up only about 3%. Tenneco coming back after sharp recent losses on a technical rebound with a 1 3/4 point gain. And UAL up 2 1/8. The unions say the company is proposing that the unions buy 20% of the company. Tandem Computers, the best percentage gainer of the day, up a full point. The company says 90 earnings, or revenues, let's make that, up 13 to 14%, and the company sees a record fourth quarter. Alex Brown Brokerage repeated a buy recommendation. No word on Caesars World, but the stock up 7/8, nice percentage gain. Golden Valley Microwave down 2 points, the big percentage loser. The company says it's going to have flat third quarter earnings and about an 8% drop in sales. Smith Barney cut earnings estimates. Circus Enterprises down 2 points. Donaldson Lufkin downgraded the stock to neutral and cut 91 earnings estimates. Inco Limited dropping 1 1/4. Prudential Bache downgraded it to a hold, cut earnings estimates, and the same story with Sherwin-Williams. Prudential Bache cutting earnings estimates and down to a hold recommendation. NASDAQ trading a loss of about 7 2/3 points in the index. Trading volume up nearly 20 million shares from yesterday's pace. For every 5 stocks higher, about 14 lower. The 100 index off just over 8 1/2 points. Intel topped the active list down 5/8. MCI falling 2 1/2. Microsoft down 1 1/2. Apple Computer managed to gain 1 1/4 while Amgen lost that much. Nike down a point. Novell off 2 3/4. Yesterday, Merrill Lynch removed it from its recommended list. Autodesk rebounding 1 1/2 after sharp recent losses. Reuters Holdings lost 1/2 while Sun Micro gained 1/2. Software Toolworks lost over 50% of its value in the market today. The company sees a second quarter loss on product delays and provision for product returns and sees 91 lower than 90. Nelcor down 2 1/2 points. Company had flat first quarter earnings, 17 cents, same as last year. And Care Corporation off 2 5/8. Its third quarter earnings were down 7%. Finally, we see the American Exchange down a little over 5 1/2 points. Trading volume up a touch to 13.6 million shares, 129 issues up, 455 down. Topping the active list, fruit of the loom on 840,000 shares, no change. The big mover on the upside, the Solomon Nikkei put warrants. Nikkei down 909 points overnight. And Leo's Industry, which sells stereo components to the electronics market, down a point. We couldn't get through to anyone in a managerial position there. That's the Wall Street wrap-up. Linda?
Paul, unfortunately, I have more negative negative news. The nation's retailers struggled through September as fears of a recession and war in the Middle East kept many shoppers out of stores. Among retailing heavyweights, Walmart posted a 9% sales gain from stores opened at least 1 year, while JCPenney sales dropped 3.4%. Specialty retailers also saw mixed results, with the Gap seeing healthy gains while sales at the Limited slipped. Analysts say the numbers don't bode well for the Christmas shopping season, which unofficially begins in 6 weeks.
Sears Roebuck says its same-store sales rose more than 4% in September, but despite the modest gains, the retail giant has been going through some tough times, as Leslie Nichol reports from Chicago.
With some $25 billion in sales last year, Sears